Not to over-exaggerate, but whenever I see someone use the sentence, "It's really not that deep," a part of my brain stops functioning, and a short circuit of the neural connections leads to the passing away of all the brain cells in that area, and the remaining part of my brain mourns the loss and collectively loathes this gruesome act of eliminating substance from everything. Like in the start, I could more or less agree to disagree with the usage of this phrase, but now all the instances seem like an insufferable attack on the essence of living itself. Just to make things clear from the start, no one has the absolute right to determine what should and what should not matter to another person, and to what extent they themselves find someone else's thoughts and opinions correct. Because lest I remind you this basic concept that other people's existence isn't meant to be revolving around you. You are, yes, open to formulate your own opinions related to someone else's thoughts and feelings, but you are in no way, shape, or form the thought police with the right to control other people's freedom of expression, which brings me back to the heading I used for this entry. I know it is a self contradiction given my previous statement, but it is intentional, trust me on this one. It has to do with this new thing I learned today called paradox of tolerance. The paradox of tolerance is such that if you choose to stay neutral to all aspects and tolerant of all behavior, then it defeats the purpose of your strategy because all aspects and all behaviors won't be able to thrive in an environment where there exists other aspects which in essence are for the stopping of the existence of these aspects. So when you tolerate all, you only give free rein to those that mean more potential harm, regardless of it being intentional or unintentional. This is very much so relevant in this scenario as well, because if we collectively choose to tolerate this mindset of shallow thought process, it eradicates other forms of thoughts that should also exist, given our freedom of thought and its expression naturally. And in a paradoxical way, for the freedom of existence of most of these, you need to eliminate the components that endanger the same principle that they stay alive off of, like a parasite, like a weed that needs to be taken out for the sake of all else to flourish. And no, it's not a cruel act. A cruel act would be letting the weed stay and consume all resources so that no other plant can grow on that land until eventually, given the weed's lack of potential to give anything back to the soil, it's going to suck the life away from it and in the end destroy itself too. Speaking of weeds in need of being cut off and taken out, there are many trends and gross normalizations of things I've observed recently that really don't sit right with me. I'm not part of most social media apps, so I do tend to get news of some new phenomena on there taking everything by storm a tad bit later than the average netizen. But I got to know about this flip the camera trend, and although normally I'm not one to promote violence, but boy would I be lying if I didn't think about how good it will feel when my fist would collide with one of those faces, giggling and snickering over another person's public humiliation that they themselves are accountable for. Being rude and mean on online platforms is such common behavior, and I don't understand how someone can act like this in anonymity and still claim to be a decent company in real life. Because that's not what they are. They are just someone who holds all this venom within that they want to spit out, but are too afraid of consequences that come with it, which makes this behavior all the more pathetic. Being as nice online, on the contrary, is often seen as fake, as if just because they haven't been able to find the capacity within themselves to be kind, then everyone who does is just putting on an act and not being real. Not to mention the fact that bullying is not just a physical act of abuse, and whether it be this flip the camera trend or the ever prevalent backhanded compliments on a person's appearance on a video that doesn't even have to do anything with their looks is all a form of bullying and are all acts that the person acting upon needs to be ashamed of. Not ashamed because of being some kind of bad person or anything, but being ashamed because of feeling the need to attack someone who hasn't done them any harm and is simply existing on the screen behind which they hide in their comfort and safety. Shame is a necessary feeling in many scenarios, actually, and it can lead to a positive change in a person. And in such a case, shame is nothing else but heightened self awareness. Now, I won't claim that a person who has done bad things should not feel the guilt because of them, because personally, I think the exact opposite is much more effective. They need to feel the guilt, they need to feel the shame, they need to get hurt from the consequences of their own actions if the leniency towards that path would result in the normalization of that behavior for that person or in general, and an insensitivity towards the person who had to suffer without even being a perpetrator. Empathy and understanding for the person responsible for hurting someone shouldn't come at the cost of the support and kindness that the person who got hurt deserves. And if the art of not putting people through things that you would never want to be put through yourself could only be learned with the impact of a rough blow equivalent to a spiritual awakening, then so be it.